This is Kurt at Lake Lanier Island's Legacy Resort in Beaufort, Georgia, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars, the podcast that blends the modern scooter lifestyle with a twist of the paranormal over a cool cocktail. This independent podcast follows a group of modern Vespa riders in search of classic pubs, dive bars, and haunted taverns. This is not smart or safe, but it's really fun. Please do not follow us or attempt this at home. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars. This one's called Night Drive.
What happened to the Lizards opening?
Well, the Lizards went camping.
Oh, Lizards out.
The Lizards out.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah, so welcome Shelley and Bobby Chong.
Well, thank you.
It's a little bit different blend of personalities and feelings here as Shelley is outnumbered by the charming old guys.
Yes, once again.
So, yeah, as we mentioned, the Lizard went camping, and we probably won't see him today. I leave for another trip each week for the next 3 weeks. So it had to be today when we recorded this. Leave us a review on our Facebook page. You've been listening a while to our podcast. We have 1,700 people, nearly, that are on our Facebook page and 0 reviews.
When you say nearly, does that mean about 700?
Over 1,650. How's that sound? Anyway, you're lurking out there, you're giving me a few likes, but if you just go to the top of the page and give us a quick review or hit the stars, if you want to do 5 stars, that's great, but be honest, we can take it and rate us. If you do, send me some info on a direct message or messenger, and I'll send you a really cool Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars sticker. What do you think?
We still have some?
Yeah, I keep ordering them.
Oh,
I haven't asked for that capital call yet, but... Hey, Instagram and Twitter, yeah, we have those too.
And you folks that have listened, a handful of you that several times, you realize how much this means to him. So please, we're tired of hearing it.
All right, our website is chasingghosts.net, and don't forget our very own Alexa skill called Chasing Ghosts Podcast. Just ask Alexa to enable, just like she's doing now.
There she goes again.
This is Dan at the Parkway Tavern, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters and Bars.
So hey guys, don't talk about what you're drinking. Let's talk on these microphones.
Are we recording now?
We are recording.
Okay.
So what's been going on? What have you been doing? Bobby, what have you been up to?
Not much. Construction in Seattle. I don't know if you noticed, but we have over 60 tower cranes downtown.
I have seen 1 or 2 of those.
It's a busy city.
It is, and we have 3 or 4 mid to high rise projects going down there.
Wow.
Plus a Harley Davidson ride with our customers.
Okay, we'll keep the Harley conversation short, but where did you go?
Just down the coast and then over the hill to past Redding and then down to Reno, the Hot August Nights. And then we went to the Salt Flats and watched the Speed Week there.
Nice.
So really you cool. Sent a video of a little guy on a 50cc that were getting a speed trial on it. They were going something like 97 miles an hour? Or?
World record. Italian group of people. Engine built in Germany, custom 49cc.
Ausgezeichnet.
Yeah. The driver was 76 years old.
Whoa, Nelly.
And they were switching. When we were there, we watched them break the record, and then they brought it back in and started tearing it down. They're going to put another engine in and see if they could go for more, and I don't know what happened.
Wow.
Because you needed to get to a bar.
We did.
I know how that group rolls. Okay, enough about Harleys. Sounds like you made it back safe. It looks like it. And your back's holding up after surgery pretty good?
Yep.
All right. How about you, Mark? You've been off all summer. What's going on?
Well, good times have ended, and now I'm back at school.
Oh, shoot. Are you working?
Well, I'm there. I show up 5 days a week. And the only way you can get to June is get to September.
So how are the kids this year?
Oh, those little darlings.
Yeah.
Put a smile on my face.
How long have you been teaching?
This is year 25.
So there's no cynicism or hardness.
No.
Still coaching.
Optimistic as day one.
How are you feeling?
Trying to change lives.
You're coaching tennis now?
I'm dabbling in tennis. Yeah.
And getting ready to coach some basketball.
Yeah, down the road.
And how are you feeling about that team?
Let's get back to the podcast.
Okay, let's talk scooters. I've been busy. Something came up this summer.
Have you picked up a new interest or hobbies?
I don't know if it's an interest. My Beth thinks I've lost it, but we have 4 apple trees in our orchard.
Right,
that have been there since I don't know, probably late 50s, early 60s.
So they're mature.
They are mature trees that this year had a lot of apples. So I picked 100 apples.
Whoa!
And I picked them myself. I pressed them. Then,
were you up in the tree like a?
No, there were so many I could just reach them, and I'm not a real tall guy.
I thought I saw you picking them up off the ground.
I did not.
Yeah,
but I did ferment them and made my very first batch of hard cider.
Oh, look at you! As if you didn't have enough to keep you busy.
Right. So the other night, you guys, we had a golf tournament. We ended up here late in the garage. I vaguely remember making you try some. Mm-hmm. You took a sip. Do you remember what you said?
I do now, yes.
Do you have any whiskey?
Yeah. It needed a little more time in the jar.
Hey, I did. I also paid a few bucks and went on a ghost hunt in Brandy's attic. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I swung down to the South Tacoma Way car show on my scooter.
What brought you there?
Yeah, well, Greg Wombold, old grizzly vet, was down there with his son's 54 Oldsmobile.
Correct.
And that's a cool car.
Yes, it is.
Won an award.
Super.
Participation award. He was really happy. He cried. I mean, he was so excited. But he has it. It's in his garage, the car and the award. And parked my scooter, ran into the Firkin group. The Firkin Scooter Club. Oh. They were at the Mule Tavern.
The Mule.
Then Greg offered to buy me a drink. I went over to a place called the Golden West.
I've never been there.
I hadn't been to either one of them.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So very nice, good hiring practices.
That's important.
They have a dress code, and it is wear as little as possible. Well-run husband and wife place, and everybody seemed happy.
And he's wearing as little as possible as well?
He's he wears those reading glasses that are magnetic.
Oh, yeah.
And so they hang over, and then he puts them together. When he wants a good close look, he puts them on. Golden West was actually nice. I liked it. I think we need to head out to South Tacoma Way on a non-car show day.
I like it.
And do a little walk through the bars.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm going to talk about my first real paranormal experience on this podcast. I recorded it for a different podcast that's out there that features ghost stories, but I thought I'd plug it in here.
How old were you there? If you're your first paranormal?
I was about 12 or 13.
Oh, wee little lad then.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago for you, wasn't it?
Hey, if you remember, we also did a
brush over it.
Which means his mom was with him.
I'm so glad you're here, Bobby Chong.
So I was up at Roach Harbor. Remember, we did an episode that featured Roach Harbor in it last season, but I was up there for a business trip and picked up a really, really crazy story that I'm calling Night Drive. So we'll be sharing that a little bit later. We swung by the Firehouse Pub. They moved.
We did, yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little bit. They have a new location. And then finally, we went on a Kent, Washington pub scoot.
Surprisingly great day.
Well, when I mentioned that we needed to go try out Kent, everybody looked at me funny.
I would have. I wasn't even here.
Never thought about Kent as a day ride.
So we went to the Star Lake Inn, the Monte Carlo Pub, and Blinker Tavern. And who would have just thought that we would have had such a good time? But we did. We had a blast. We were all over that shit. So, we've been riding Vespa scooters, those little scooters, or as people say, mopeds. They have all kinds of names for us. Why don't you want a Harley? We've already talked about the Harleys today, but I do have a question for you, and I guess I'll direct it at Bobby Chong first. But if somebody asks you, which they do, why do you ride a scooter? I mean, what would you say? How would you describe it?
Well, I'm especially qualified to answer this question, because I ride every other type of bike too. And I'd much rather get on my scooter because it's so much easier than anything else. And I do it in, street clothes. I do it in my bathing suit. Yeah, that's a scary one.
Well, it's really pleasurable for all of us when you do that.
I have customers who are contractors that you can't imagine the kind of things they say to me. Sometimes,
you poor guy.
Yeah. I don't even think I should repeat it on this podcast. But regardless, they are fun, they are easy, and that's why I ride scooters mostly.
Nice. Mark, how about you? What do you say when people ask about that?
Well, this
well,
is
you
good
ride an
'cause I've been
Aprilia,
asked
right?
before. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's a little bit different, but I ride for pity. It's a well-known fact that the elderly are some of the loneliest people in the country. And at your age, if I didn't ride or Bobby Chong didn't ride, I don't know who you'd be riding with. So I do it for you.
That is really. I think there's also another
touching.
reason. It was not the biggest
Tissue, please.
Wasn't that the biggest kind of bike your wife would let you have?
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted a bike, and she said no. And then you introduced the scooter concept 8-10 years ago, and she goes, I don't think you can hurt yourself there.
We're not
Which
too
I
bad.
proved her ass wrong.
Yeah, you did.
A couple of broken bones in the jaw, some scrapes, but nonetheless, that's behind me now.
Yeah, those are great answers, and I knew Bob was probably going to say something like that because he gears up in all his Harley stuff or his dual sport things, and you take 2 weeks just getting ready to pack the hard bags on the side.
Well,
So
more than 2 weeks.
more than 2 weeks because you're always ordering new gear. But I think I do it now
Well,
because.
can I ask you, Mark, why do you ride?
Well, it's more of a rebellion against everybody else. It's like, no, I don't want a Harley. I have a garage full of scooters, and I think they come with their own level and set of understanding. I don't know what that means, but I guess
only the
until you
public
have
could
one and
understand.
rode one, you don't really get it. But it's a low powered joy is how I try to explain it. But
I could see that being right in your wheelhouse.
if you're a scooter rider and you're listening to this and you can add to this conversation, that would be great because it is kind of hard to put into words, but it really is a satisfying experience.
Every scooter I've ever seen or been on has fit perfectly into a bar parking lot.
You know, they do, and
You can find
you're
a place
also
anywhere.
invisible going between the bars.
That is true.
The only person we're going to hurt is ourselves.
And if there's a poet out there, please write a poem about it.
Scooter riding as an art form. That would be our friend at Scooter and the Sticks. He's a
Yes.
he's a good writer.
He's a wordsmith.
And then, Bob, something else came into your life recently. You bought a new bike. You bought a Royal Enfield. Tell us about that.
I will, Mark. How much time do I have?
Do you have about a minute?
Okay. Well,
Producers are
I've
always
been
on
riding
this,
dual
Bobby.
sports, and I've owned at least 5 or 6 of them in the past. But usually, I buy them specifically for a trip, and then I get rid of them because they take up too much room. And so I bought a KLR to take on a trip, and then I saw an article on the Royal Enfield Himalayan, so I put the KLR in the storage unit and went and bought a Himalayan. So that's their dual sport bike. It's pretty cool. It's only 411 cc. It's very low powered, but very comfortable to ride, and it's a pretty good looking bike. And it's as you know, they're built in India, and they have a lot of mountains in India, and they know quite a bit about dual sport riding. So that's what I'm on, but we haven't gone yet. And my partner just crashed his motorcycle in Africa, and he's in the hospital right now. So I don't know if we're going to go on this trip or not, but I'm going to keep that bike.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next
It
year.
has a real retro look to it.
Yeah, it does.
It's a single piston.
It's a one lunger. It is electric start and fuel injected, but it's very low tech other than that.
Yeah, very manageable.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You bought another one and took it back, right?
Well, the KLR is in the storage unit.
No, wasn't there 2 Royal Enfields you were buying?
Oh yeah, I didn't.
that
I
other
didn't-
one, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it. It was one of their classic looking bikes.
Well, there you have it. The new family members of all of us. Mark, I just sent you a 500cc Aprilia that you could have bought for $2,500, and you just turned your nose up on it.
I did. I was. It had a little less mileage than mine has currently, but didn't do much for me.
Yeah, well, it was
I like
the
what I've got.
burgundy color.
Yeah, it didn't. Well, it was blue.
Oh, well, the
Close
blue
to
color.
burgundy.
Well, if you care about my opinion, Mark, stick with the one you have.
I'm going to run that into the ground.
Yeah, from the guy that's owned about 10 bikes in the last 3 years.
This is Jim. I'm at Harbor Lights in Tacoma, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on scooters in bars.
Hey, Mark, what time is it?
Well, it's the time in every podcast where we have Scooter News!
Hey, here we go. Love it.
So the Lizard sent me a story, even though he's not here. He sent me a story about the Cizetta, which is also known as the pig.
How do you spell that?
Cezeta.
No, pig.
They say it's so ugly, it's beautiful. It's an old Czech scooter, Czechoslovakian scooter. It was built from the year I was born, 1957 to 1964. You guess what year I was born.
That was one hell of a birth. Your poor mother.
It's now being
Must have been your ego.
Yes,
That explains a lot.
it's being reproduced as an electric scooter model 506 and selling for around $11,600 in Prague, Czechoslovakia, where they're built.
U.S. dollars?
U.S. dollars, and they're going to start shipping them. They're using only local Czech vendors, but they are using a Chinese motor. Electric motor, hand building these at about 10 per month.
Do they
right
take
now.
checks?
Yeah.
Check.
They're trying to get it up to about 25 scooters a month in January, and they're hoping to get it all the way up to 800 per year.
Do you like the look of these?
I kind of agree with that description that they're ugly but cool looking.
Yeah, I don't know if I can wrap my head around that. I had two thoughts when I first saw that picture you sent. It was, one, they're trying to hide something.
Well, it has
like
a long wheelbase and tons of storage.
It's like it's
it.
covering something. The real scooter underneath is being covered by this thing.
Oh, right.
And my other thought was it's like a human-style version of a muumuu.
Oh, like
those big old women wear. They just kind of frump a cotton cloth over the top of them with a hole over the top and just kind of...
Yeah, see, I like it. I disagree. I like the way it looks. I like the retro look to it and all the covered stuff that's on it. So,
I don't think I can get into
you know, the front area in front of the windshield down there is a trunk. You can open it up and put stuff in there. So it's pretty cool.
It looks big enough to be a trunk.
Yeah, it's a longer wheelbase than a Vespa. I mean, it's a bigger scooter. And the torque on this thing is 10 times that of a Vespa 300.
Wow.
Thing is super powerful. Of course, 50% more expensive than a Vespa. It's that retro stamped steel body with like I said, tons of storage, long wheelbase, and it's not plastic or anything. It's being rebuilt like it was built in the 50s. It's reproduced.
It's not plastic?
No, it's all stamped steel.
It
So
looks plastic.
what part are you looking at?
Wait, that's just a really good paint job, Mark.
Got a picture right here.
That's not plastic. The windshield is. It has that upright seating, so it's probably not good for touring, but it runs out of battery
Well, that's not
after
good.
how far?
100 miles.
kilometers. If you get the extra big battery, 100 miles.
Ah, now you're learning the old conversion from English.
The other thing that's
SC.
unique about it that says patented is what they're calling their sway throttle.
Talk to me.
So you're driving the scooter. You just like any throttle, you twist it towards you to speed up. But if you twist it away from you, it applies the brakes.
Whoa.
Is it brakes or is it the motor torque that's...
All I'm saying is that it says it applies brakes and it's patented. So maybe it's the motor torque going the other direction. You're an engineer. Maybe you could explain it to us.
Well, I'm thinking that it's charging the battery back up as it brakes the scooter.
It does say it reduces.
There you go.
It does, yeah.
Bobby Chung.
Anyway, check it out at Cezeta.com. That's Cezeta.
Or PIG.
Also, in October, the Electrica from Vespa, their version of the all-electric scooter, which we, by the way, covered in a previous podcast, is now available in the Vespa shops in October. I wonder if our friends down south will have one.
I'm sure they will. Now, have either of these companies come to you to preview and review their product?
Yeah, they did. They tried to send me a couple of scooters, but I said, I am so busy.
With your cider production and such?
Cider, cheese and
Cheese
cider.
and cider.
and traveling, I just said, I'll wait a while. But here's something to think about. The Vespa, while is beautiful and very cool looking, only has 2 kW worth of continuous power with a peak up to 4, whereas the Cezeta has 5.7 kW up to 8 kW.
What the hell does all that mean?
I don't know.
It means
Bobby, could you explain that?
A 4-banger versus a V8. How's that?
Okay, yeah, I got that.
And like I said, tons of torque, lots of power. And I guess on the Electrica, you can get a generator that goes alongside it that will actually extend its range to double.
So that's a gas-fired generator.
I don't know.
It has to be. So now what you have is the Chevy Bolt.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Both of them, like I said, have about a 100-kilometer range. But you'd compare the Vespa to a 50cc and the CZ to the 125.
I thought you said Cazetta.
Well,
now you're calling it a CZ.
It doesn't matter.
Cazetta. How about that?
confusing me.
Let's say Cazetta. Because I don't know how it's really called. There's a sticker for somebody who can let us know. Electrica or Cazetta. Get either one and you'll be turning heads and some eye rolls as you drive by. Anyway, very cool stuff. And that's it for Scooter News.
All right.
Great segment.
This is Janelle from the Firehouse Pub in Buckley, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters and Bars.
And we're back. And Mark, I just was curious. Off air, we were talking about Buckley. Now, what's going on in Buckley?
Well, Bob, the Firehouse Pub is in Buckley. Home.
Let me ask you something real quick. Of all the places you've ever been in your long-toothed career, your top bartender, could you think of one? Or there's so many that you couldn't peg one down?
I would say top 5 would be Janelle at the Firehouse Pub.
I would second that.
Yeah, top 5.
Wow, okay. No wonder we're there.
More importantly, though, the Firehouse Pub, as we've talked about, has moved to a new location.
Just down the street.
Yeah, 69 steps. They've also opened a little cafe right next door, so they can have kids now go in and eat the Firehouse Pub food, which is
brilliant,
above average pub fare.
It is.
Great pizza.
Yes,
I like it.
You have a different set of standards than I do. However, it's just fine. The Firehouse is also home to Janelle. But here's the funny thing is, if you go into their new location, after all the work they did and everything that happened, you feel like you're in their old location. They moved everything.
They moved it all.
Including the posters and stickers on the wall and everything else. So I don't know.
You're right back at home.
It was impressive that they were able to recreate their exact bar in another bar 69 steps down the pavement.
I agree, but mostly it's Janelle.
It's there. Well, she can be hot and cold.
She can. She's a female.
Yeah, well,
good point, Bobby Chung.
But she, I mean, some days she's never met you before, and other days she wraps her arms around you.
Well, you were talking about perhaps menting or taking her on a scuba.
She's a scuba diver. I just said, hey, if you want to take your daughter, who's also a scuba diver, out, I have access to boats, big boats, medium-sized boats, small boats, whatever. But
little dinghies.
She said she says she hasn't been diving that much recently. But there you go. So the Firehouse, still great ride for us because it's just the right distance, about a 35-minute ride.
Beautiful farm country.
Through farm country, around some gorgeous barns and tall growing barley. And
wheat. Well, if you want to visualize it, just look up an old Rainier beer commercial with a motorcycle in it.
That's right. That's what it looks like. So we like going up there, and she's just a bonus for being there when she's in a good mood.
So then where'd you go?
So then that's it.
This is Alicia at the historic Star Lake Inn in Auburn, Washington, and you are listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
Well, let's talk about our most recent day ride. We actually had an intentional day ride a couple weeks ago and turned out pretty well.
Yeah, we grabbed the Lizard. Did we meet him or did he start here with us?
No, we rendezvoused here and then started our venture.
And we headed up to...
you shocked us with a Kent proposal.
I know. That threw everybody off. The dive bar, Kent Dive Bar Pub Scoot afternoon. We all had a kitchen pass.
It was one of those locations, though, you never think of. It's right there, but I've never thought of Kent as a destination.
Yeah, so apparently there's a downtown to Kent. Bob, you brought that up?
I'm sorry, yes, there is. It's an old town, Kent, and it was built, I don't know, right around 1898.
So we didn't find Old Town Kent.
Yeah, you got to kind of go south of the jail. I know where the jail is,
Your office is in Kent. We started out, though, at the Star Lake Inn.
Yeah.
The Star Lake Inn is right off Military Road. Alicia was our bartender.
We caught her at opening.
We met the owner, Steve. I think it's Steve. He's a boater. He mentioned going by Three Tree Point on his boat. He lives next door to the bar on the lake. His family has had that business, I think, since 1968, and it feels like They just moved in and didn't do much to it after that.
Well, the carpet's gone.
Right.
That's a nice touch.
There is no clear evidence of a haunting of this place, but some of the help are convinced that it is.
Right. So it's kind of one of those, depends on who you talk to kind of things.
Right. So it's
Well, how old's the building?
Well, so they say it was open in like 1898, late 1800s.
Well, you sound like you don't believe that.
Well, the thing is, it's off Military Road, which Military Road was being
The
surveyed
thoroughfare.
in 1853, started building in 1858.
They wanted it ready for the Civil War, Mark.
Right. But this place has a little bit different feeling. It's, it's got a big deck. It's got a big view. It's got a big lawn down to the lake. It's a really cool idea. 3.5 stars on Yelp, but it does need a little updating. Not a remodel, but
It's a gravel parking lot, too. It's a little dusty on dry days.
Right. Historic building on the register. And it can't be touched as far as the structure itself is concerned.
But it does,
External look.
and it does have a nice touch of locals that show up, I think, pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Because it was 11 a.m. when we rolled in.
Well, we were all waiting outside.
Yes.
So it appears the Star Lake Inn was actually founded, from what I saw on the Federal Way Historical Society website, in 1918 by the Hanneman family.
Oh, okay. So
And
there's a discrepancy.
Yeah, and it became a dance hall in 1923, same owners, but then I think went back to the Star Lake Inn after that. I don't know if they called it like Sally's Place or something like that. The Hanneman family had it until 1968 when it was sold, and I think the current owners have it, and the son now is running it. His dad bought it in 1968. But the Hannemans ran it for 50 years. So
That's a good run.
if this place is haunted, it's going to be by the Hanneman. His name was Ovid.
Ovid?
Yes, that's his
didn't,
name.
didn't you get a story out of there?
I didn't. I didn't get a story.
Sounds very European to me, though.
Right.
Yes. Northern European.
Yes.
It was also the first telegraph line that was in Washington State was along Military Road. So there could be some transient ghosties.
I thought you
that are
interviewed
from-
her,
No, I didn't.
the bartender.
I'm going to go back and interview her.
Well, I bet you
Can I go with you?
Okay,
nice.
like you said, we were there when it opened on a sunny Sunday morning, and we, along with the local color, were waiting as Alicia unlocked the doors. She was pretty quiet, Mark.
Slow start, yeah.
Yeah, we were thinking this isn't going to be good until we tasted our perfectly made Tito's and soda.
The second one was even better.
It was the first one was a large. the
Wait a
second one was
minute. You
small.
guys had two?
And then as she started waking up, she turned out to be quite charming.
Yes.
So forget the history of this place. She alone made our trip to the Star Lake Inn extremely worthwhile, I think.
Absolutely.
The Star Lake gets a worthwhile to scoot to rating for Alicia, the history, and the location. And I would rate it a little higher if they pulled out some of the old things, not the historical old things, just there. It needs to be cleaned up.
Just a new touch.
Yeah, well, it's got
Some
the
cleanup.
drop ceiling over
Yeah.
the bar, and I don't like those. You know that. So don't remodel it. Just update it. We didn't eat, but it appears to be standard tavern fare, but no fryer. I didn't see French fries or anything like that.
Well, you weren't invited back to the kitchen either, so
Well, maybe next time I will.
Well, Mark,
you've been in the kitchen before.
at our age, we shouldn't have fried foods anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Good point, Bobby Chong. This is why you need to listen to him more often.
So we took a cool route. We got lost once, but we took a route down from the hill. We were up on the hill overlooking the Kent Valley at the Star Lake Inn, and we went down a windy road and ended up. We took a left, had to turn around, head into Kent, and we.
Well, the
took,
lizard got a little discombobulated.
No,
for a second.
I was actually leading. It was my fault.
Somebody was discombobulated.
Right. We were on our way to the Blinker Tavern, and we were going down Washington Avenue, and this is you saw it, but nobody else did. It has like one B. I mean, the sign itself is almost
It was
gone.
pretty nondescript. It was a low building,
Block built, low building.
in a strip.
Oh,
of
is that the green one?
gas stations and
It's a painted green CMU block building.
No, that's the Monte Carlo. We're going to get to
I thought
that.
it was a blinker.
No, the Blinker is a classic dive, 50s flat roof,
yeah,
but very clean.
yes.
It was extremely clean inside. Another 3.5 star rating, and the comment that I saw on Yelp for that is good for old tavern dogs.
There were a couple of dogs in there.
So the place is really a locals bar, but we were able to integrate pretty fast.
Yes.
We made friends there. We had the one guy that got hit by a train sitting
Yeah,
next to us. I go, are you on
Twice.
disability? And he goes, yeah,
He's been hit twice.
by a train. Yeah, it's like he's got a gig.
Yeah.
Did he work?
Yeah.
Did he work for the railroad?
Bobby, you had to be there. It was-
Yeah. By the
Okay,
way,
that's
I
true.
wasn't on this trip.
You were out of town. We invited you. It was a very small place. It was managed by one bartender, fairly busy, and overall, I think a pretty nice group.
Well, and a great bartender.
Well, here's another quote that it was a 5-star quote that off Yelp that said, "Great place with a cool vibe, especially the blonde." Well, that blonde's name is Courtney, and she is spectacular. Though she wouldn't let me take her picture.
No,
Do you
she-
remember that?
Yeah, but
You know
why?
why? Yeah. I don't look good.
Yeah, my hair. And she looked great.
Oh my
But
God! Yeah,
I'd hate to see her on a good day.
my goodness. So anyway, if you're going to go slum it in Kent,
Blinkers.
make sure that Courtney's
Blinker
working. And she also shared a little story. The Blinker has some activity, a little energy.
Okay, this is where I got my stories confused.
Yeah, you
Okay,
did.
yeah.
Right. So let's listen to Courtney's comments about the Blinker.
I'm with Courtney at the, where are we?
The Blinker Tavern in Kent.
The Blinker Tavern in Kent, Washington. She feels uncomfortable here. Why?
Well, this morning I was in here by myself about 8 o'clock, and our back gate kept slamming shut and then opening again and slamming shut. And I could hear car keys jingling outside, and it was just kind of eerie being in the office by myself,
And then
early
think,
and
nobody here.
nobody here.
So has anything else happened? Anybody else have things happen here?
Not that I'm aware of. The owner
Right.
said that nobody's died in the building.
Wow. So, but you had a weird morning.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable.
Come visit her in Kent, Washington.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
You know what's great about that story?
What?
That is the freshest ghost story we've ever had. Same day paranormal.
Occurrence.
Yeah.
Maybe it knew, because there's no time behind the line.
Ooh.
Maybe it knew we were coming up there and gave her a little shake in the morning. Whoa!
Speaking of which, I think you enjoyed that interview just for the interview's sake.
Well, I have to say that
Because there's not a
as
lot of
I
meat
said
on that
earlier,
bone.
she was spectacular.
Now I wish I was there.
Yeah, you do.
It sounded like you were stepping on your tongue a little bit.
So that's only because we'd been to the Monte Carlo beforehand. That was our second trip to Blinker. So what's our rating? Mine is scoot there once in a while. Make sure Courtney's working.
Yeah, that's a big bonus. But yeah, I would definitely go back.
If you want a true dive bar fix, separate building in a strip mall area, but not in a strip mall, in between them, gas stations,
Right, everything.
industrial area,
Taco Bell.
It's
like.
perfect for that. So congratulations to Jerry's Blinker Tavern, because we're going to come back.
This is Alicia at the historic Star Lake Inn in Auburn, Washington, and you are listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
So before we went back to Blinkers, where I picked up that last really scary gate-shaking story,
Jangling.
we went to the Monte Carlo, which sounds very Euro slick.
I was actually excited about going. Thought it was going to be great.
But it's really just another clean dive bar in the heart of Kent, I guess, if Kent has a heart. Apparently it does, Bob.
Well, you were on the west side. You weren't downtown.
All right. So this place is painted. It's a separate building, painted in green and blue, all Seahawk colors, with pool and darts and
open like
games.
a picnic area in the back.
I think they have Pac-Man going on there.
Courtyard in the back.
Courtyard in the back. In fact, we walked back there, and
walked back
there was a family barbecue
you
going on.
came back with a chicken wing.
I did. Well, they had a full catered.
Where did you get that?
I just picked it up, and I met them, said happy birthday to the nice lady whose birthday it was. She was probably 75. Gave her a hug.
And wasn't the
I
guy's
even
name
gave her
Cooper?
money because she had a money necklace.
Oh, that's right.
And I was just at that point where I thought, what a good investment.
Did Beth give you your allowance that day?
She did. But I walked away with a chicken wing, and came back and ate it in front of you guys. So Lonnie looked at me so hungrily, he had a bite off my half-eaten chicken wing.
And I felt like I had to go out there and apologize
to the
family.
Yeah, but you ended up spending a little time with them. They were nice people.
They were great people. I did not steal their food, though.
So there's nothing wrong with the Monte Carlo. For me, it just lacked character.
Yeah, there's nothing special.
I did like the people in the back and the beer garden, the family thing going on, and the chicken wing. That was good. But it's really just a building with drinks and some games and stuff. It doesn't have a culture. It doesn't have
there's no flavor to it.
Charm or anything that captured me. So we left there and headed back to the Blinker. And Courtney,
hello.
She did capture something.
She did.
From there, we sent the Lizard back to 3 Tree Point.
That's where we split, yes.
Yeah, and we headed south, and we did make a quick stop.
Big mistake.
Just to get our story straight, and it was very convenient at Jersey's Sports Bar. And so when we got home, we could convince our wives we were just fine.
Epic fail.
You took a nap and missed dinner.
I hit the recliner and poof. It was a few hours later.
Oh, my God. You were in so much trouble.
It was about Wednesday before I got out of that rabbit hole.
So when I got home, Beth gave me a hug and said, "Thank you for not coming home drunk." And I said, "Okay, you're welcome. I'm going to be out in the garage for a little while."
She didn't listen to that interview, did she?
And hopefully she won't listen to this one.
That's a good bet.
Hello, this is George Takei, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars. Oh, my.
So the next story is compelling. It's a good one. It was told by, I want to say, an associate and friend. His name is Scott. He works in the same industry I do. He's a nationwide representative of an iconic brand of engines.
Sounds like a competitor.
He's
You
not.
won't mention
He's
his name?
not. He was at our event in the classic, historic, haunted Roach Harbor Resort in the San Juan Islands in Washington. He's listened to our podcast. Also, this place really brings out. We'd been to the mausoleum. We talked about ghosts up there, and he said, "Let me tell you a story."
I just assumed you'd been roached out. You're up there so often, and you've brought back so many. And one of our trips was up there.
Right.
We had some stories.
So I've been roached out, but that was mostly in college.
So what is it that's so special to you, Mark, about Roach Harbor?
Well, I'll tell you what, Bob. We do events up there. We bring in at least 50 boats, our customer boats, and we spend 3-4 days up there. And they host us. They do a terrific job. It's a big deal, big event. We end up with usually a couple hundred of our guests. And we just kind of herd them from dinner to drinks to parties to dinner to breakfast to Bloody Mary bars. It's really fun. If you own a boat and you want to join us, direct mail me. I'll send you a sticker.
So do you only get one drink if you don't leave? I mean, like us, we go to a bar, we get one drink.
No.
So you go to the Roach, you get one drink?
Our bars are open. Except when we say it's a cash bar. Anyway, this story from Scott is something else. He moves around the country taking care of customers and problems with boats, and he was on a long, lonely drive home from Montana, decided to hit it, and this is what happened to him.
Well, let's hear it.
So this is called Night Drive.
Okay.
I was driving along I-90.
Where? What area?
Just outside of Saltese, Montana. It's probably 30 miles east of Saltese. And I'm driving along. It's late. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Not tired, anything, just cruising along. All of a sudden, there is a family in the middle of the freeway. I hit the brakes as hard as I can. And I mean, if the brake pedal was measured, it's probably dented. I was expecting to see carnage, bodies, everything laying on the freeway. I get out. There's nothing. There is absolutely nothing. My heart is racing. I'm sick to my stomach. I think I just had taken out a family. And they were pushing a cart, like a cart you would see in the days of the pilgrims or the people that migrated.
Right.
So,
like through the Oregon Trail.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But it was a family, and it was real. So I look all over on the side of the freeway, got my flashers going. I can't find anything at all. Nothing. I am so upset. I'm like, okay, I've got to stop and get a cup of coffee or something. I got to get off the road because my stomach's upset, my heart is racing.
And you just killed a family of 5.
Correct.
Yeah.
I go into this place, and I don't remember the exact name, but it's like 50 nickels or the golden nickel or something. It's this little casino thing right before Saltese. And I go in there.
I need a sandwich sign to sit
The worker there, she said to me, she goes, "Are you okay?" I'm like, the weirdest thing just happened. And I said, I just took out a family on the freeway. And she said, let me guess.
Not this time. Are they good?
She goes, they were pushing a handcart.
So much, bud.
I'm like,
Oh,
what?
Lordy B.
And she's like, yeah.
That's tomorrow.
Other people have had this experience.
Are you better?
Talked to her for about a half an hour. She calmed me down a little bit. Had a cup of coffee. Life goes on. But my point of this whole thing is life changing, because now you realize that there are other things out there.
The world's working on a whole bunch of different levels.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whether it's another dimension, whether it's ghost, whether it, I don't know what it is, but I know what happened to me.
Yeah.
And
I love that story.
It was just...
You were driving your van in the middle of the night, and there's a family in front of you. You hit it.
Yeah.
And then you pulled into a...
Well, I stopped right there looking for bodies, because I totally expected to get out and see bodies laying or on the freeway. It was so vivid, so real, and it wasn't like I was dozing off or something like that. It was real. It happened.
Boom.
Now I believe differently than I did prior to that.
And thanks for listening to our podcast.
Absolutely, always.
Well, that is one hell of a story.
Well, your history teacher, that is an area that was probably settled back in the, late 1700s?
Montana?
Yeah.
A little later than that. I mean, they had the cattle drive. The cattle industry really settled Montana.
And the...
You're right.
Again, a great story, but here's my problem. He has great, vivid detail about his story and killing the 5 people and the family.
He didn't kill them. They were dead already.
Beside the point. But he can't remember the name of the wagon or the Oregon Trail. He can't remember the 50 Nickels bar or tavern he was at.
Well, he just pulled over on the side of the freeway.
Basic generic information he reaches
Well, we're going to get you that.
Well, it wasn't an FBI investigation, actually. It was just a guy driving
And not
along.
only that, but the bartender at the casino
Confirmed.
already said, yeah, did you hit a family? They had a push cart?
Hand cart is what she said.
Well, I have yet to see any pictures of the Oregon Trail with people pushing the carts, the wagons.
With the Polish, they did.
That was selling hot dogs in New York City in the tenements.
So anyway, thanks, Scott. But
it was a good story.
Not only that, he believes it. I mean, he really went through something. You talked to him about it.
And what was going on?
So
there was a lot of commotion in that skit there.
Well, he didn't want to tell the story. First of all, he's extremely well known. He's a famous guy in the industry I'm at. And if his real full name Brashears got out there, he would be in trouble.
But there was a lady. Was there a lady on your guys' lap
there was,
in the middle of the interview?
We were in a bar, but they were making plans for the next day, and there were people talking about that. I'm sorry for the extra voices. Enjoy them.
He was working.
We were all working. So the other thing that happened is I paid a few bucks to Andrew from Tacoma Ghost Tours for an evening ghost hunt at the vintage shop called Brandy's Attic.
That's in Tacoma.
It is. The place is rife with paranormal activity, and I listened to the owner's experiences. He came out and told us about them. He said, "Here's what's happened to me in here," and I'm a skeptic, but now I'm a believer because it's happened to me. It's also the site of a previous interview I did with Andrew for an early episode. If you remember, we interviewed Andrew for one of our podcasts, and that's where I got the accidental EVP. That's the name of the podcast, and I picked up a hi, in an empty spot while chatting with Andrew in the interview.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So anyway, I went back and spent a couple of hours in the store's hotspots that they've been known and picked up other EVPs and experiences. And Mark, do you know what an EVP is?
Not really.
No, I don't either.
Electronic voice phenomenon. I've told you this quite a few times.
Shouldn't it be EVF?
It probably should.
I know you've told us this, Mark. I'm sorry. We just really don't.
So there you go. I went there on this ghost hunt. I picked up an EVP. I can't understand what it says. So here,
give Bobby Chung and I a crack.
I know. I'm going to put it on. We're going to play it a couple of times, and I want to get your opinion of what you think it is or what they're saying. But I'm really asking everybody out there, both of you listening to our podcast, it isn't like that. Stop it.
Because I was going to say, I'm cleaning my glasses right now.
Right. If you have an opinion, even if it's wrong, and you put it on our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter account, I will send you a sticker.
How can an opinion be wrong? An opinion.
Good point, Bobby.
Oh, there's the engineer in you.
All right. I think we need Bobby Chung at every recording from here on out. He helps keep you in check. He explains things. He tells you what you mean.
He got the other gene in the family.
He's the mentor that you've been missing.
That's right. So here's the. I'm going to play it a couple of times. Here's an EVP from Brandy's Attic.
What comes after this place? What comes after this place? What comes after this place?
All right, guys, you've heard that a couple of times now. I mean, what do you hear?
I'm at a loss. I don't know.
It was confusing, but it sounded a lot like "get out."
Yeah.
That was the store manager.
He was the owner.
Yeah, they were closed.
Anyway, if you can give us an idea what you think you heard, I'd really love to hear it. Any kind of feedback, engagement would be really satisfying for me because, you've been listening for years and now...
Especially on Facebook. Huh?
Yeah. Hey, how about a review? How about a rating? Send me a direct message. So that's what happened at Brandy's Attic at my ghost hunt. And it was weird. It was fun. And there was a nice group of people there. One had a pair of shorts on.
Did you buy anything?
No.
It is an antique shop.
But there was one woman that bought a really nice glass vase that was there. Yeah.
Nice.
So they sold something.
This is Courtney up at the Blinker Tavern in Kent, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
So there are three things I like a lot. Well, there's more than that, really. But I like scooters, I like classic pubs, and a really good ghost story. And I've had some really weird things happen to me that are unexplainable.
Yeah, but a lot of that's been your own doing.
I don't think so. I lived in a very haunted house in Tennessee on Kingston Pike, the old Thunder Road, the Civil War thoroughfare, right? That was crazy haunted. I grew up in the area of Fife Heights near Tacoma, Washington. And I had this experience happen. I had two witnesses with me that can verify, and it was really my first-hand paranormal event. Make of it what you will.
Oh, I will.
But just know that I recorded this a couple of years ago, and the quality suffers just a little bit.
Did you record this with your brother Jeff?
No. This was done. This was done a year before that, even.
This is the Learman's Trail.
This is the Learman Trail story.
Okay.
Bobby, were you a part of this?
No, but he knows the story.
I know the trail. I know the story.
Oh,
and it's crazy. It's nuts. So anyway, here is my first paranormal experience, which spawned the beginning of my interest.
Why were you recording before we started?
What's
your story?
Here it is.
There's an area on the hill there that's connected to Federal Way, Milton, a place called Fife, and Tacoma, and it sits in an unincorporated area called Fife Heights. And I grew up in one of the older homes up there, and my parents entertained a lot. One of the nights they were having one of their tiki torch and martini parties, they sent me out to find the neighbor girls of some of the parents that were there. So I headed off barefoot. We used to cruise through people's lawns and backyards and trails through the woods and didn't touch the roads too often. I set off to go pick up these two young ladies. I was maybe 14, and they were 13 and 12. As I made my way through the backyards and the woods, there was an area we rode our bikes that had a gravestone in it, which I believe was stolen from a graveyard and placed in there by some of the older kids. The name was Francis Schmidt, and we were very used to seeing it. It had been there for several years. I cruised by that. It wasn't dark yet, but it was approaching dusk. Got through the trail, headed through a few more backyards, got to the home where I picked up the two girls, Tammy and Leah, and said, hey, your parents are over having a party at our house. You are requested to come with me. And turned around and started walking back with them. We made it through one trail, back through a few more yards, and then as we were approaching the woods that had the gravestone in it, we were about 15 yards away, and I saw a large silver mass underneath the two madrona trees that arched to the trail going into the woods. And I thought to myself, oh, God, there's a great big German Shepherd right in front of me. And I have to be kind of brave for these girls because they were very pretty and old friends of mine. And I was a year older, and we were all young enough to want to have to prove those things. So I thought, well, I'm going to scare this big German Shepherd sitting on its haunches away. And as we got closer and closer, I realized this German Shepherd didn't have any ears. And it was silver, indeed, and with black splotches over the eyes where I would normally see, dogs have the dark splotches on their eyes, and I realized they were just dark splotches. And as I leaned in closer, now I'm 10 or 12 yards away, walking toward it, I could feel Tammy and Leah's fingers digging into my arms on each side. I got a little closer and realized that the silver in the big silver German Shepherd was just sparkles and snaps of light. And as I leaned forward, my mind couldn't wrap around what the heck I was seeing. I leaned forward to look closer at it, and it leaned forward at me. And as we stared at each other 10 feet, 12 feet away, it leaned forward, I leaned forward, fingers were going into my arms, and I realized I could see through this thing guarding the entrance to the trail. And all of a sudden, things didn't make sense. I could feel them pulling me backwards toward another route to go home, and we did. We turned around. I was barefoot in cut-off jeans, no shirt, and ran through gravel and rocks and stumps and everything I could get through in order to get away from whatever it was we saw. And we headed back to a driveway, made our way down to the main road, which we tried to always avoid as kids on that area of the hill, and walked our way back to the party. One time looking up the driveway near that was and thinking we may have seen something, but we didn't. I don't know if we did. Made it home and made it back to the party and couldn't stop talking about it. Years later, we'd all moved and gone our separate ways after getting out of high school and college. And years later, I ran into one of the daughters that was with me when we experienced this, and I brought this up. I mean, we're talking 30 years later. I'm in my 50s now. And she just looked at me and her eyes got big like saucers. And she said, oh, my God, I've never been able to explain that, what we experienced, what we saw. I told her when I was in college, I told this story and had somebody who was, at the time, seemed to be into aliens and other things and said, what you described was a particularly nasty known alien. And while I've tried to look that up or tried to understand it, I've never really said anything, but I was told that. And finally, as now I'm an adult with children and in my 50s, it turns out that I now live next door to that set of woods, and it is still a set of woods. Nobody lives in that area, and other people that live on the other side have said they've experienced some very odd things up here on the hill. So that's my story, and thanks for listening.
Okay, I've got a few things on my mind after listening to that. And thanks for sharing that, first of all, Mark. That takes a lot of courage to come out like that.
Do you hear Bob grumbling and groaning over there?
Yes.
What's going on with that?
To our older viewing audience, do detect a little bit of Ted Baxter in there? You seem very
It
distinguished.
was
in
my
your
very
50s.
first recording on my DR40 Tascam digital recorder.
You must have thought originally you were going to go a serious route with your podcast.
Being very careful, word by
That
word.
was for Jim Harold's Campfire podcast, which is the #1 ghost story podcast in the world.
Oh.
So my opinion is we got to get Leah and Tammy here to tell that story.
You know what? That's a great idea.
I think and we do, and then feed them drinks.
Well, we could do that too, but you know what I'm saying.
I'll be the silver wolf.
You'd have to let
Without
our hair
ears.
grow out.
So what, did you really have a pair of Daisy Dukes too?
What do
you
you
mentioned cut-off shorts. Back
No,
in the
they
day.
were just. We wore cutoffs back
Well,
then.
you saw the photo of him in that over there with his.
Bobby Chong right now is pointing to a wonderful picture of Mark Helgen in his prime.
Yeah, right.
Well before his 50s.
At
and
Lake Chelan.
Yeah, you were.
He was fully erect at that age, and now he's kind of crumpled over.
Okay, so we're going to leave you with my first paranormal experience.
I'll kill you.
A special shout out to Weeknights for graciously allowing us to use their original music on the podcast, and who, by the way, has a new record in production, and it's coming out on, I think, Swoon Records, who is their label.
Swoon
And
or Swoon?
Swoon.
Oh, okay.
Swoon.
Thanks to Bobby
Coming
Chong.
soon.
Bobby Chong, thanks for joining us today.
Oh,
Shelley,
happy
thanks for
to be here.
chatting it out. And mostly a big thank you for listening to our little passion project about scooters, ghosts, and bars.
And people, please respond to him. I'm tired of listening to it.
I got stickers for you. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and support your local bartenders and servers by over-tipping. And there you go. You're having a sip off your fresh squeezed orange juice. We do have a commercial squeezer here, and we are making some really good drinks.
You know, Mark, you should mention that at that time of that particular story, that your parents had a step-through Honda 55.
It was
or
a
something.
55. We've talked about it on the podcast. Maybe you ought to listen sometime.
Hey, boys,
I
boys.
should.
Whoa, back off, back off.
Tit for tat.
Guys, we gotta go.
There you go.
This is over.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Copyright. Copyright.
Dang it. This podcast and all the music on it is
copyright
by Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
Copyright.